Hello and welcome to Talk SCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys, for another video here today. And what we're going to be doing today is taking a look at the Barcelona squad in a bit more detail, because a lot of people have been saying over the course of the summer, look, can you do a video looking at our best team, our best lineup, and looking at possibly some rotational players who can come in and make an impact as well. And that's what we're going to be doing today, having a look at our squad in a bit more depth, looking at all of our options and seeing exactly what Ernesto Valverde has got to choose from this season, because as we know, it's a long season. We're going to play 50, 60 games in all competitions. You need a big squad to compete with that. You need a lot of players to choose from in your team. And Ernesto Valverde desperately wanted this summer to have a competitive squad, to have a lot of players in each position to choose from, and to be able to rotate given the course of the season and how long it can be and demanding on our key players. So what we're going to be doing is looking at all the options that we have in our squad depth, and then later in the video I'm going to be taking a look at the very best team that we could field if everybody was fit. Say we had to play a Champions League final tomorrow, what team would I go with to play that match? Who is our best lineup? And particularly what formation we should adopt in the coming season. So we're going to crack right on with that now, and first of all look at the goalkeepers. Now it's very interesting because Barcelona have actually only selected to go with 2 goalkeepers for the coming season. We have not promoted a third goalkeeper. That third goalkeeper would likely be, in the incident of an injury, Ortola. He would come up from Barcelona B, but I think it's quite wise actually to stick with Ter Stegen and Jasper Cillessen in the first team and not promote Ortola, because we've seen in the last few years with Masip, and we've seen it as well with Oya, who used to be our third goalkeeper quite a few years ago now, and it happens very regularly with Barcelona third goalkeepers. They simply don't get the game time, because although we have so many competitions, Ter Stegen is one going to want to play all the league games. He's going to want to play in the Champions League as well, and that leaves of course to the second goalkeeper Cillessen the cup games, which is fair enough. So you don't really get the amount of games for the third keeper in order to keep them developing. So I think Ortola is a good young goalkeeper, and I think that he should very much be suited in Barcelona B, where he can keep playing every week, keep developing, and certainly then help in the future when he wants to play week in, week out, possibly for the first team a bit further down the line. But I think Ter Stegen and Cillessen, 2 very, very good goalkeepers. I think Cillessen showed his quality right throughout our pre-season tour. When Ter Stegen wasn't there, Cillessen stepped up and played well. I think he's a very, very good backup keeper. Ter Stegen very much our first choice. He'll play in the Champions League, he'll play in La Liga, but I do think Cillessen will put pressure on him. I do think when Cillessen plays, if he can play well, if he can play to the quality that he does have, he can definitely put pressure on Ter Stegen. Cillessen has said many, many times he's not just here to be the number 2. He does want to try and put pressure and try to become the number 1 if it's possible for him. So I think 2 good goalkeepers, that's always good to have in your squad. We can rely on both of them, and I'm very, very happy to have both of them at the club right now. In terms of left back position, we've got Jordi Alba and Lucas Digne. Those are the only 2 left backs in the squad right now. Of course, in the past, Jeremy Mathieu has been able to play at left back. Samuel Umtiti as well could play at left back at a push, and so could Thomas Vermaelen. But it's very much so that Jordi Alba and Lucas Digne can play at left back, and those will be our 2 going into the coming season. Jordi Alba has looked pretty good of late. He's looked quite decent, back to his good form. At times he can be susceptible defensively, and at times in the final third he doesn't always make the right decision. But I do like Jordi Alba. I think he gives us a lot down that left hand side. He's got fantastic pace, he's got fantastic athleticism, and I think down that left hand side he's certainly a good player for us. And I think Digne, I think he's got a bit to prove in the coming season. I think he'll get more games than he did last season under Luis Enrique. I think Valverde will play him in a few more games. If he can stay injury free, that'll help him too. But I think Digne still has a bit to prove. He hasn't really seen an awful lot of him since he joined the club from PSG, but I think he's certainly somebody that can come on. He's still only 24 years old. He's still got a part to play in the squad, and he can certainly be used in terms of a rotational player if and when we need him in the current season. In terms of right back, of course, that's the position during the summer that we desperately needed to strengthen. Last season, Vidal injured, of course, and most of it Sergio Roberto playing out of position for most of the season in that right back area. So it was absolutely vital that this summer we signed Nelson Semedo. He's come into the team against Real Betis. He looked outstanding. He looked very, very confident. He looked good on the ball. He looked fantastic up and down that right hand side. Like Jordi Alba, he's got outstanding pace. He can get up and down. He's got great energy, and I think he certainly suits our team in that way. He's very, very good on the ball. He's good in terms of his link up in the final third as well. So I think Semedo could have a really good season. 23 years old. He looks like a really, really good investment. But I think Vidal will play a few games as well. The games that he has played so far this season, particularly the matches in the Spanish Super Cup, particularly against Real Madrid in that first leg, he was exposed defensively, and quite badly too. He didn't play well there. He didn't cope defensively. It's very, very interesting actually to see what Valverde has played Vidal a bit further up the pitch in a few games this season and in pre-season. He did try to play him in a more advanced position, so it'll be interesting to see whether Valverde does that a few times in the coming campaign. We will look to use Vidal, but I think mostly it will definitely be Semedo, the out-and-out right-back. Once he fully settles in, once he's fully match fit, he will be our right-back. When he's fit, he will play because he's the outstanding player there, and I really do have good hopes for him in that right-back position. In terms of our centre-backs, we're not terribly stuck. We sent Marlon out on loan to Nice for a season, so he's not going to be in the team there. Thomas Vermaelen ended up staying at the club, but of course our first choice centre-backs would be Samuel Umtiti and Gerard Piqu. I think those two as a partnership are very, very strong indeed. They complement each other very, very well. Umtiti is probably the more physical one. You know, he can certainly get around the pitch. He's got, again, good athleticism. He's quite quick around the centre-back area. Piqué is good in the tackle. He's very much a leader from the back now. He's experienced, 30 years old now, Gerard Piqué. So, you know, he's got that experience at the back that you need in the centre of your defence. He can order around his teammates, and that's what we need. You know, somebody like, you know, you think about Puyol, the way he used to order around the team, the way he used to lead us in the big games. You want to see that sort of leadership and that commandment from Gerard Piqué now in the current campaign. Mascherano's still here, of course. Again, a lot of experience there. When he comes in, he can certainly do a job. We've seen him a few times already this season come into the team and play pretty well. And of course, if we do try to play three at the back on occasion, Piqué, Mascherano and Samuel Umtiti can all play a part. And Thomas Vermaelen, when he gets on the pitch, he's not bad. He's got decent quality. He's a decent defender. I would describe him as somebody who could be quite solid on an occasion. But the problem is getting him out there. He's got to stay injury free. He's going to be our fourth choice centre back in the coming campaign. And the most important thing by far for him is to try to stay fit, try to keep training, you know, keep on the pitch as much as he possibly can. Because I think throughout the campaign, if he does stay fit, he will get a few games. And in that time, he's got to try and, you know, prove why we decided to keep him at the club. Now, if you looked at our midfield options, you'd probably say, you know what, we're very stacked in midfield. We've got a lot of options. There's a lot of players there who could certainly come in and do a job. But the problem I have with our midfield right now is the fact that we've probably got too many of the same types of players and not enough variety in that midfield. I still don't look at that midfield and see a controlling midfielder. I've said right throughout the transfer window, I think we definitely needed to bring one in. And I also look at that midfield and I don't really see an out-and-out substitute, an out-and-out backup for Sergio Busquets in that defensive midfield role. Yes, Paulinho can do a job there. Yes, you could put Andre Gomez in that deeper position, but I don't see anybody who can come into that role and really fit seamlessly. You know, Sergio Sambra has been sent out on loan. He's gone to Las Palmas. Of course, you know, we've been trying to sign somebody like Jean Seri to come into the midfield and control things, but we haven't, I feel, addressed the midfield area. We brought in Paulinho. How he's going to fare, we're going to have to see. He's somebody who can be in that midfield and give us something a little bit different. He's a bit more physical. He's not really the type of midfield who's going to get the ball down and play. He's certainly a more powerful midfield player. I think then you've got the likes of Andre Gomez. Sergi Roberto, of course, could do a job in that midfield. I do want to see more of him in that midfield position. It'll be interesting to see in the coming season what sort of Ivan Rakitic we see, because right now, at times, he looks very good. He looks back to his best. He looks fresh. He looks sharp, because when he is on form, Rakitic is a fantastic player. He can get up and down the pitch. At times, his touch can be off. That's a problem with Rakitic in that midfield area. When his touch is a bit loose, it can be a big problem. But I think when he's on form, he can be an asset to this squad. He can score some important goals. He can certainly play a part in our play going forward. But I think we've got to see the best side of Rakitic this season. 29 years old now. We've got to start seeing the Rakitic of when he first arrived at the club and when he was really rejuvenated our midfield. We've got to see that version of him in the coming season. Andres Iniesta, 33 years old now. We've said it many, many times. He's not going to play every single game, but I think we need to keep him fresh for the big matches. I think when he does play, he can be effective. There's absolutely no doubt about that. If you watched him for Spain last night against Italy, he completely ran the show alongside Isco. He was fantastic. He's brilliant on the ball, and it was very interesting to watch Spain because that midfield was outstanding. You know, they played on possession. They were very much a passing team, and when you play to that philosophy, both Iniesta and Busquets really shone through. And it's just a shame that our midfield right now isn't in as good a shape as Spain's is, because Iniesta last night was absolutely magical, and I want to see that Iniesta return because he deserves that. He deserves to have a midfield around him which can really play to his strengths. He's still got the quality, even if he hasn't got the legs to play every single game in the big games when it really matters. I still believe that Andres Iniesta has the quality to be a success in that midfield and be the creating force and the driving force behind our attacking moves. Then you've got a few, extras in that midfield, the likes of Rafinha and Denis Suarez. The thing about those two players, although they can play central, I think Denis Suarez could be an interesting player to play in that more attacking midfield role, that Iniesta role perhaps, where he's a bit more closer to the forward play. I think Rafinha can play on either side of the wing as well. He's quite versatile when he returns to fitness. I think he can play on the right or left, and he could be very much a big part of our squad in the coming season simply because of how versatile he is. He can play in the midfield area, he can play wide left, he can play wide right, and I think when he does play, when he is fit, he can make an impact. Last season he scored a few goals, he got a few assists, and I think he can definitely contribute in the coming season with all the games that we've got coming up. He can definitely play a part. I think it's Arda Turan, he's not going to play. I don't think Valverde wants to include him in any of his squads. I think that the club made that absolutely clear to Arda Turan this season that he wouldn't be in the club's plans. Arda Turan though said, you know what, I want to stay anyway, I'm happy with my wages, I'm happy with my contract, I'm quite happy to see it out. He didn't really want to go anywhere, so Arda Turan is going to be in our squad for the coming season, but I wouldn't expect him to play an awful lot of football. So that leads us on to talk about our attacking players, our options up front in the three forwards. I think we will adopt a 4-3-3 formation in the coming season. Ernesto Valverde has sort of toyed with a 4-2-3-1 formation. He tried to play those two in midfield, three attacking players, and then the one striker. He's done that while Luis Suarez has been out injured. We've played Lionel Messi a few times in a sort of false nine role as the main player up front. I think we will adopt a 4-3-3 most of the time. I think Dembele, of course, the new signing, will give us a lot of options on that left-hand side. He can come in and play from the left or the right, of course. When he was at Borussia Dortmund, he played very much on the right-hand side. I think the versatility from him as well could be very important because he is very much comfortable on the right or left. He's quite versatile in terms of his, his best foot. He can play very well with his right, but he's also quite strong on his left side as well. So I think Dembele can play right across that front three. Then, of course, you've got Lionel Messi, who will predominantly play from the right-hand side. If we play in a 4-3-3, he will adopt that right position, but we know that Lionel Messi during games will drift. He'll come central, he'll go where the ball is, and he'll go where he can be most dangerous. So I think you don't really want to tie Messi down to a position, but I think if you play sort of Dembele, Messi, and Luis Suarez in that front three, they're all quite versatile, they're all quite flexible, they can interchange, and I think that's one of the things that made MSN so formidable over the years, the fact that they were all so sort of versatile in the way that they can play, because I think Messi at times will go into that false nine role. Luis Suarez can shift out to the right, he doesn't mind doing that, he won't mind doing the hard work and shifting to accommodate Lionel Messi, and I think Dembele can operate well on both sides. You could see him and Messi changing wings, and I think that confuses defences. That's what you want to see in the coming season. All of them, trying to be inventive, trying to be creative, and trying to just put that little bit of doubt in the defence's mind. They don't know where they're going to pop up, you don't know where you're going to mark them, and that's the doubt that you want to put in the opposition's mind, because then they really are struggling to keep up with you and to understand the style that we're adopting. So I think that little bit of uncertainty in that front three is a good thing. I think the players can certainly play to their strengths, and they can certainly accommodate each other in that front three. I think the likes of Paco Alcácer, Deulofeu, I think they both got big roles to play in this season. Alcácer hasn't really shown his full quality right up till now. Deulofeu has rejoined the club, and I think he could be an astute signing. I think he could certainly add to the squad depth. He can play, like I say, on either side. I think he'll definitely play quite a few games this season over the course of the season in all our competitions. When one of the front three need a rest, he can come in and take their place. You might see him getting a few assists and goals throughout the season due to him simply being very, very quick, very good on the ball, and I think he could certainly, learn a lot here and progress as a player. He's not going to be a starter, he's not going to play every single game, but I do think Deulofeu can certainly contribute over the course of the season. So that's all our options in the squad. That's our team, that's our squad depth there. 2 goalkeepers, 2 right backs, 2 left backs, 4 centre backs. In midfield, we've got a number of options, right from Sergio Busquets to the likes of Arda Turan if he's going to play central. But like I say, I think there's a lot of players in that midfield, but there's not an awful lot of different profiles. So I still think we could have added to our midfield a lot more this summer. And then I think we'll play a front three. I think Messi, Dembele and Luis Suarez will always be looking to start games, but we've got the option there for the likes of Denis, Rafinha if they want to play wide. Alcácer can play through the middle, and then of course you've got Gerard Deulofeu who can play on either side and will give us good depth, and when we want to rotate he will give us the ability to be able to do that. So I think Ernesto Valverde has got options. I still think we could have done more in the summer. We could have brought in a centre back, we could have brought in another midfield player. If we do get light at any point throughout the season, of course we can turn to Barcelona B. The likes of Sergio Valencia is in Barcelona B, the right back player. If he can get a few minutes in the Copa del Rey, that would be very, very good as well. Carlos Alania is a player that I'm very excited about. He's registered with the Barcelona B team for the coming season, but if he could get a few minutes in the first team, that would be excellent as well. So I think Valverde's got options. We spoke about the ideal team that I would go with if we were playing in a final tomorrow, and I would probably go with Ter Stegen in goal, Alba, Umtiti, Gerard Piqu, Nelson Semedo, Sergio Busquets, Andres Iniesta, Iniesta. Now, the big decision for me was whether to include Rakitic or Sergio Roberto. And right now, in this moment, I would go with Roberto. I think the first few games of the season, he's been excellent in that midfield. He's looked good on the ball. He's looked comfortable. Every single game that he plays in midfield, he seems like he's growing as a player. He's understanding it more. And I think Rakitic right now isn't in the best of form. That could improve as the season goes on. If he gets back to the Rakitic of old, I would certainly be including him in this team. But I think Iniesta, Busquets and Roberto is a strong midfield. I think Roberto also gives you a bit of defensive security. Given his time at right back, he would have learnt an awful lot playing in that defensive role. And I think the front three picks itself. Ousmane Dembele, Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi. So leave your thoughts, guys. What do you think on our team for the current season? Although I think we should have done more in the transfer window, I think the board certainly should have done more in terms of bringing in a controlling midfield player and possibly even a centre-back too to sort of reinforce our defence a little bit more with a little bit of youthfulness. But I still think that we can be competitive. Although, you know, all that said and done, I think we've still got Lionel Messi, of course. I've got good faith in him. Ousmane Dembele. I think if we can get the real best out of Luis Suarez again this season, he needs to get back to his sharpest, his goal-scoring form. His injury might actually be a blessing. He's not had an injury for a very long time. He would have had a bit of rest. He would have had a chance to sort of get that sharpness back in his game, and hopefully he can come back better than ever. I still think Iniesta's got a big role to play in the big games when he's had that rest, when he's got that sharpness back. He can still be very, very dominating in that midfield. He can certainly play a big part. Sergio Busquets, if you can get the players around him, if that midfield can play to Busquets' strengths, he can be as good as he always is. Roberto's got a lot to prove in the coming season as well, in his favoured position, of course. You've got Jordi Alba, Semedo, I think could have a big impact in the coming season. Umtiti was outstanding last season. Hopefully he can continue that in the current campaign. And then of course Piqué, Ter Stegen, two established players, two experienced players. Both of them can be key on their day when they're on form. So I think we've got a team there that can compete. I still think we should be trying to win the league. We should be trying to win the cup. We should still be trying to reach the Champions League ladder stages, as we always do. Nothing should change there. We should still have the same ambitions. I think we could have helped ourselves, but at the end of the day, this is our hand. This is what we've got to deal with. This is our squad. Ernesto Valverde now has just got to do the very, very best that he can with the squad that he has. I hope that he can use it well over the course of the season. I hope that we can rotate. I hope that we can certainly field a good team every single week and get that sort of chemistry and that bond going. I think Ernesto Valverde will play 4-3-3 when he can, but a little bit of versatility, that little bit of change in that formation, the 4-2-3-1, might give us options in different games in the season where we need to spice things up a bit. So leave your thoughts down below, guys. What do you think of the squad? What would your ideal lineup be? And what would your ideal formation be as well? Let me know your thoughts down below, guys. I will see you very, very soon indeed. But until then, as always, Vasca el Barça.